Good evening. I will now call the February 11, 2025 Bermuda Run Town Council meeting to order. Remind everyone to please silence your phones. Do want to recognize we have a quorum with a full house on the council. We'll start with item number 2, Pledge of Allegiance. Join me if you can. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It is the intent of the Town Council to make solemn the proceedings of this meeting and the business brought before the governing board, to offer the opportunity for a reflective moment of silence. Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Agenda item number 4, Town of Bermuda Run Code of Ethics Statement. Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Council. Pursuant to North Carolina General Statutes 160A 86 and 160D 109, and the Town of Bermuda Run Code of Ethics policy adopted November 9, 2010, and further endorsed on August 9, 2022, I would ask each of you before you adopt the agenda if there's any actual, potential, or perceived conflicts of interest with respect to any matter on the proposed agenda which will come before the Town Council for a vote at this meeting tonight. If so, please speak up and let the council know at this time before the agenda is adopted. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Item number 5, adoption of the agenda. The council has had an opportunity to review the agenda. Are there any revisions, or do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Ernst, second by Schaefer. Show of hands. Approval? Motion carries 5-0. Thanks, Councilman. Excuse me. Item number 6, approval of the January 14, 2025 Town Council meeting minutes. Council's had an opportunity to review the minutes. Are there any revisions, or do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Nelson, second by Tedder. Council, show of hands of approval. 5-0. Thank you, Council. Moving along. Item number 7, citizens' comments. We have one individual signed up, Mr. Lenny Ring. Mr. Williams, please remind Mr. Ring of the council's comment policy.
Certainly, Mr. Mayor. Each speaker shall be allowed a total of 3 minutes to speak and shall immediately stop when his or her 3 minutes are up. Please state your name and address before speaking. The speaker shall address the council as a whole and shall not ask for any verbal exchange back from the council. It's not the intent of the public comment period to require the council or staff to answer any impromptu questions. There will be no discussion between the speaker and the members of the audience. Mr. Mead will be the timekeeper and will inform you at the 30-second time remaining slot when your time is up. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Williams.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council, for permitting me to speak this evening. My name is Lenny Ring. I live at 125 Kilbourne Drive, Kenderton Village, Bermuda Run, North Carolina. The time has come for this council to take action to improve the safety and the peacefulness for the residents of Kenderton Village. Many times since the opening of the Rise Complex, it has been requested that members of this council address traffic and parking when events are held at Rise. The residents of Kenderton Village are afraid for their safety, the safety of their children, and the sanctity of their homes. This council chooses to fail residents by allowing these incursions to continue to happen. Residents have consistently been told there's nothing that we can do. I believe if there's a want to, there's a way to do, and a way can be found. There are hundreds of areas within our state that have designated resident guest-only parking, authorized parking only, and various other parking restrictions. A way has been found many times to protect the citizens. I believe if council members had a concern, they would find a way. Previous councils have found ways to forbid chickens, horses, regulate signs, set speed limits, and exact other ordinances. It should therefore be believed that residents should be able to expect ways to be found to protect our safety from impeded roadways and unwanted blockages from our homes. As all members of this council live behind the gates of Bermuda Run, it appears that you are either unaware or unconcerned about the number of attendees at Rise that choose to utilize Kilbourne Drive as overflow parking or as a way to avoid parking fees during scheduled events. Residential town streets were never intended to be utilized as parking areas for businesses. I'm not even sure if zoning allows them to be used in this manner. I wonder if the members of this council or their families would feel safe if unidentified cars were parked roadside at their addresses. I think not. Even if the gates do provide perceived protection when the sidewalks are opened, I expect you'll find people parking on the side of your drive to walk. I wonder if the members of this council or their families would feel safe. I'm sorry, I'm repeating myself. I ask that this council make finding a prevention method or a method to make removal of cars permissible by our safety officer or Kenderton Village residents. Only your caring about residents can cause a change. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ring. Moving on to item 8, proclamation, Black History Month. I'll ask Cindy to come forward, our town clerk, and read the proclamation.
Okay, this has been signed today, February 11th, 2025, a proclamation for Black History Month. Whereas much of the town of Bermuda Run's honor, strength, and stature can be attributed to the diversity of cultures and traditions that are celebrated by the residents of this great town, and whereas African Americans have played significant roles in the history of North Carolina's economic, cultural, spiritual, and political development while working tirelessly to maintain and promote their culture and history. And whereas, as a result of their determination, hard work, and perseverance, African Americans have made valuable and lasting contributions to the town of Bermuda Run and our state, achieving exceptional success in all aspects of society, including business, education, politics, science, and the arts. And whereas in 1976, Black History Month was formally adopted to honor and affirm the importance of Black history throughout our American experience, which goes back thousands of years and includes some of the greatest, most advanced, and innovative societies in our history that we can all draw inspiration from. And whereas Black History Month is a time for all Americans to remember the stories and teachings of those who helped build our nation, took a stance against prejudice to build lives of dignity and opportunity, advanced the cause of civil rights, and strengthened families and communities. And lastly, whereas during Black History Month, all Americans are encouraged to reflect on past successes and challenges of African Americans and look to the future to continue to improve society so that we live up to the ideals of freedom, equality, and justice.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 9, Recognition, Community Officer Mike Foster, Davie County Sheriff's Office. I'm going to come down to the podium and say a few words. I'm going to ask Officer Foster if he'll come forward, please. Front and center. I'll join you momentarily. So first, let me start by saying that the town of Bermuda Run has, as part of its mission, a clear statement of a desire for safety and security. I want to first thank Sheriff Hartman for his partnership and his dedication to this town, the residents of this town, and in support of that mission. Our community officer is a very special individual. We've had the opportunity to have Mike on staff as part of this town for the last 3 years. I should say on staff, but feels like he's part of our staff. You can't go to a business, you can't talk to a resident, you can't go to a town event and not likely run into Officer Foster or someone who knows Officer Foster. It speaks volumes that his name is as known as any other individual in this town and the leadership of this town. So I want to read this statement. The town of Bermuda Run would like to express our deepest gratitude and appreciation to Deputy Mike Foster for his dedicated service as the town of Bermuda Run community officer. From March 2022 to March 2025, Deputy Foster has shown an unwavering commitment to the safety and well-being of our residents. His effort have made a lasting positive impact on our community, and we are proud to acknowledge his service. We thank him for his professionalism, hard work, and the care he has shown in building strong relationships with the residents of Bermuda Run. Your service has truly valued and appreciated by this town. On behalf of the town of Bermuda Run, we extend our sincere thanks and congratulations to Deputy Mike Foster. Hang out for some photos. JD, I'm going to ask you to come up and join us as well. One more. Let me ask the council to come down and join us as well for one more photo. No one can stand behind Officer Foster, otherwise you're not in the photo. So we have to spread people around. Thank you.
Good man. Yes, he is. We'll get somebody to do this. We'll take care of you. And we got somebody,
We
and he's gonna spend some time with him before
We
he
have one
finishes.
more photo, perhaps one of the most important photos. Does not include me, includes someone you may well know. Okay, moving on to action item number 10, resolution to restore the authority for local government to initiate downzoning and to repeal subpart 3K of Senate Bill 382, Session Law 2024-57, and to restore the original provisions of North Carolina General Statute 160D-601D. I'm going to ask everyone to just allow me the opportunity to read this resolution. Resolutions oftentimes are not read, but in times where the resolution represents a strong commitment by the board, it's appropriate to read that resolution, essentially reading it into the record officially. Resolution number 2025-R-001. A resolution requesting the Town of Bermuda Run's delegation to the General Assembly of North Carolina to support House Bill 24 legislation that restores the authority for local governments to initiate downzoning and to repeal Subpart 3K of Senate Bill 382/Session Law 2024-57, and to restore the original provisions of North Carolina General Statute 160D-601D. Whereas Senate Bill 382, entitled An Act to Make Modifications to and Provide Additional Appropriations for Disaster Recovery, to make technical, clarifying, and other modifications to the current Operations Appropriations Act of 2023, and to make various changes to the law, became law on December 11, 2024, Session Law 202457. And whereas Subpart 3 of Senate Bill 384, entitled Local Government, amends North Carolina General Statute 160D-601D by prohibiting local governments from enacting or enforcing any zoning regulations or zoning map amendments that would constitute downzoning without first obtaining the written consent of all property owners whose property would be subject to such an amendment. And whereas passage of Session Law 2024-57 has severely affected the town's implementation of its costly and statutorily required comprehensive land use plan by severely limiting or prohibiting town-initiated zoning and development standards within its comprehensive plan. And whereas, as a practical matter, passage of Session Law 2024-57 eliminates the authority of a local government to adopt a zoning text amendment applicable to the entire non-residential zoning districts, and severely limits the authority of a local government to adopt regulations related to residential zoning districts, given the time, effort, and cost of identifying all of the owners of parcels with such zoning districts, and the implausibility that all owners will consent to the amendment. In short, the new law empowers a single property owner to override the will of a unanimous governing board, a developer, and perhaps all or a vast majority of the other property owners affected by the amendment. And whereas all North Carolina local governments continue to face planning challenges presented by growth and development, each local government's zoning authority has historically provided a rational means to balance those challenges with the needs of its community based upon the will of the people as determined through public engagement and ultimately elections. The downzoning provisions of Session Law 2024-57 effectively freeze local government zoning in non-residential districts, as such zoning regulations existed on June 11, 2024, and such greatly diminished the paramount local government's authority to manage growth and change consistent with the needs of its jurisdiction. Now therefore be it resolved by the Bermuda Run Council, Section 1, that the elected representatives for the town of Bermuda Run who serve in the North Carolina General Assembly are hereby requested to support House Bill 24 and/or secure the passage of any subsequent legislation to repeal the provisions of Subpart 3K of Session Bill 382 in Session Law 2024-57, so that the original provisions of the North Carolina General Statute 160D-601D are restored, and/or in the alternative, to add the town of Bermuda Run and its extraterritorial area as a covered jurisdiction in Section 2A of Senate Bill 11, filed on January 29, 2025, currently entitled, "An Act to Restore the Authority to Initiate Downzoning in Stanley County," and House Bill 2025, currently entitled, "Restore Downzoning Authority, Stanley and Catawba." Section 2, that a certified copy of this resolution be forwarded to the Honorable Steve Jarvis, member of the North Carolina Senate, and the Honorable Julia Howard, member of the North Carolina House of Representatives. Thank you for allowing me to read that. With that, I will open this topic up to the council for any comments.
I'd just like to say I am proud to support this resolution. Our comprehensive plan is our roadmap. It's been very, very well designed, and I think this is a step in getting back to where we began.
Just want to add to that this is extremely important to respect the vision and the wishes of the town, residents of the town, across the town, for a vibrant community moving forward. And if we aren't allowed to act proactively, there may be some uncertainty to the future in this town and every municipality and town and city across the state. Not only are people in the state looking at this, people nationally are looking at this. So I think this is a very important motion and a resolution, and I'm extremely proud to support it.
No other comments? I'll entertain a motion.
Maybe just a brief question, Mayor. Maybe this is better for our town manager, but are we aware of whether there are other counties or other municipalities that are getting on board with this type of resolution? I know we refer specifically to Stanley and Catawba.
So at the time that this resolution was drafted, you did have the one standalone House Bill 24, which was the repeal in its entirety, that would had no specific jurisdiction. Right. Since that time, there have been other multiple jurisdictions that have applied for or requested local acts, not only for their counties, but all those municipalities within those counties. So I just looked at the legislative submission today. I haven't seen any others as of yet, but I'm assuming that as this starts to get out across the state, more and more jurisdictions will want to tie on to those bills. So, and I think it's important. This isn't a Republican or Democrat issue. If you look at House Bill 24, it was bipartisan sponsorship on that bill. So a very wide-ranging impact to the state of North Carolina, counties, towns, and cities. So.
Good. Thanks, Mayor.
And I will add to that I know that there are also municipalities who are not necessarily creating a resolution, but are actually directly reaching out to their legislative contacts as well. So through multiple channels, getting that message of the huge impact this has on local governments. And by local governments, that means municipalities. That also means county leadership as well. It impacts 100 counties and hundreds of our municipalities across the state. With that, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Tedder, second by Nelson. Council approval? 5-0. We have unanimous. Thank you, Council, for that show of support. Moving on to agenda item 11, I want to welcome Cameron Webb, our Davie County Director of Emergency Management, and our Fire Marshal. Now, we had him here a while back. Love to have folks from our county coming in, presenting and informing both the board, but also those who are in the audience, as well as those who will watch the video. I will ask that that as we normally do in these presentations, we will not take questions from the audience. Questions may come from the board. If there are questions from the audience, I encourage the audience to reach out to Mr. Webb's office. I'm certain that he'll be happy to answer those questions. But with that, Mr. Webb, welcome. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Brennan, and thank you, Town Council, for having me. Very rewarding to be here. The board's changed a little bit since my last visit, so for those of you who don't know me, I'm Cameron Webb. I'm your Fire Marshal and your Emergency Management Director. So I was asked to come here tonight to express just a couple things about emergency management, whether you're informed or not informed, but specifically presented this at the LEPC meeting, so the Local Emergency Planning Committee meeting. And those folks are derived of several different folks, you know, throughout the county, town, municipal areas, so on and so forth. But I wanted you all to know and get a picture, you know, that 1,000-yard view of what the county, including your municipal areas, you know, contributed to Hurricane Helene. So, again, a lot of those involvements were addressed with emergency management, fire and rescue, law enforcement, HHS, DSS, public utilities, planning and zoning, logistics, had our Dipper assets, and then just a huge display with our donations. So what was our, you know, stance with Hurricane Helene? Typically, in a very short version of that, if there's a request, an asset, if we're sending folks out, with the exception of the Sheriff's Department, they have other legalities they need to go through. Everything funnels through emergency management when we need to deploy. None of those orders come out without kind of going through the emergency management function. It doesn't mean that I'm in charge of sending them. If they have a different route, again, I'll give the sheriff an example. He receives his orders from a completely different source. But in real world situations, we'll set up our EOC. If you don't know where it's located, it's at EMS Station 1. That's 114 Dr. Slate Drive. We'll set up our computers a lot like you'll see the depiction there. That's a lot what we look like for almost 4 weeks. During this time. So, you know, what do? We start at the local level. We receive our orders. We receive our request, and then that's when the chain starts. It all starts on a computer. Once we started receiving local missions, we started assigning people to where they needed to go as those requests come in. So OSFM, which is the Office of State Fire Marshal, they put out you know, a proclamation to go ahead and start getting people. Wanted us to poll, you know, who was going to go, who was going to stay. Joseph Ashburn, director of EMS, he started receiving requests for ambulance task forces, and then just personnel, just in general. And a lot of the misconception is our day-to-day is fire inspections or, you know, addressing folks like you. But when stuff like this happens, everybody's job kind of turns a little bit topsy-turvy. It's kind of one of those things, you go down there at the bottom of someone's job description and as duties assigned. So that's what happens when we get into an emergency management function. Go ahead, next one there. So again, I'm pretty sure ran most of this stuff by the sheriff. JD, if I'm wrong in it, I apologize. But they had 2 separate deployments, McDowell County and Mitchell. They sent 10 officers. Mark Crater led both of those, which was outstanding. He got a 2,000-yard view of what things looked like in 2 different locations in the western region. JD also had 2 officers that were activated by the National Guard. Your fire marshal's office and emergency management, we played just a big role in sending out assets. And what are those assets? When I was talking about Dipper, disaster preparedness response, we have a cache of equipment. The top picture there is a 125 kW generator, which was placed in Bakersville, North Carolina, to run the compound there. To the right, that building's the firehouse. Their generator, which is in that picture as well, pretty much blew up during Hurricane Helene. So the requests come in, we were able to facilitate. Our Swift Water team was also there during that time. And then I believe just down the road, JD's folks in Mitchell County, they were in Bakersville, which is in Mitchell County as well, at the middle school. But what did we deploy? We had 2 50 kW generators, one at Beach Mountain and one in Henderson. What did those do? They went to support the Viper cell towers. So for those that don't know, we're primarily on a Viper system. When those towers go down, it means that we can't communicate with each other. How vital is that, right? So those Viper towers went down. Their generators failed them, and so we sent those up so that there could be a little bit of communication in that area. Brush 81 is a UTV. We'll keep it clean, but it was made to get around. It was deployed to Newland, but it was pretty much made for any kind of recovery. any kind of disaster that they could not get to in an inaccessible incident, more or less. Our MERT trailer was there. Our MERT trailer is our multiple event response trailer. It's full of cones, barricades. You guys have seen that at several of your events. Our light tower went to Old Fort on I-40 to help with SHP, show some light down on them because everything was out of power. So all the lights that covered that portion of the interstate in Old Fort, went to aid that. Henderson, I don't believe it done much there, but nonetheless, it was deployed after its mission was complete at the I-40. The bottom picture there, I received a call from State EM wanting to know, since we weren't necessarily impacted, if we had equipment, manpower to run almost 60 UTV Gators. Those are that picture there at the bottom. So we ran about 60 UTV Gators from New Bern to remote sites in western North Carolina, including Bakersville, where the generator is. And most of them were taken to Hickory at the JORSI. I apologize for not knowing that acronym. But it was basically the headquarters in western North Carolina where all of the equipment that was requested went, got checked in, hypothetically pictures taken of it, and then sent to the western region. Go ahead, Andrew. So Joseph Ashburn, again, like I explained earlier, he received some orders from OEMS, NC OEMS, and those orders were kind of to help with a strike or a task force. That ended up kind of falling more into the hands of our PHPC, so our Piedmont Healthcare Preparedness Coalition, located off of Bethel Church Road. Their main focus is to support hospitals in their time of need, but they had a good footprint for being able to stage EMS ambulances. So I know that they had roughly somewhere between 50 and 75 any given day coming from as far as California, which I know sounds crazy. Hey, come all the way to California, go all the way back to western North Carolina, but that's where they were told to go. So we helped with some of the strategic planning there. I don't think any of my guys directly took care of that, but I know Joseph had a couple folks that took what they call morgue trailers for obvious reasons. So we helped do some of that. Joseph's group was also asked to stand up or stand by in the county for medical examiners. And that's just a very, it's just one of those things that it's mission specific when it comes to what paramedics or what Joseph himself does. 911, Rodney Pierce and his group took calls from Wilkes County, so as a backup, so when a call come in from Wilkes County, it would be forwarded to Davie County, and then the information was given back. So we played a crucial role there. The volunteer fire departments, Coolamy Fire Department, pictured right there with the Spruce Pines. When a fire department goes, you go for one thing, and then you end up doing a lot of other things. They were mainly staged there for suppression because a lot of folks lost their fire trucks, fire apparatuses during the floods. But from my understanding, they've done a lot more than that. Advanced Fire Department sent up a engine company, and then once they got up there and we started talking, drone teams became a big deal. And we have, minus the sheriff because I don't know how many drones he has, but they have 2 specific drone teams on the fire department side of things, and they were deployed to Spruce Pines as well. Moxville Fire Department ended up in a little bit higher western region. They ended up in Kings Mountain, North Carolina. So the Davie County Swift Water Team, I mentioned them earlier. They were deployed in Davie County as a 48-hour stand-up. So the rescue squad is located over closer to the jail in the DOT area. They stood by for 48 hours in county and then was deployed to Bakersville for 7 days. They had multiple different things that they were tasked with. Again, mainly they were there to rescue folks out of the water, but my understanding, it turned into more of a rescue task force ordeal once the water receded. HHS and DSS, just the food collections, deliveries to Allegheny County. Suzanne and them sent day shift nurses, vaccine clinics, different types of things like that. Social workers, public health staff and leadership. to kind of plant the presence, these folks got so overwhelmed that a position like Suzanne's, mine, JD's, they were asking sheriffs and HHS directors to come and run their operations so that those leader folks could get some rest. This just went on and on and on. We did end up having 14 assisted living residents from Lake Lure end up here in Davie County at one of our local nursing facilities. They are since gone, but we did assist in that manner. Our public utilities folks ended up sending 4 10-inch high-max couplings to Asheville. Asheville's water system was just completely depleted. It was tore apart. There's still some areas in Asheville and in just the western North Carolina that still don't have safe water. Planning and Development Services ended up sending 1 inspector to the western region, I think for 7 days, general inspections, building inspections, just checking those things off. So, go ahead and hit another one. So again, some of these pictures here, if I can explain just kind of briefly, the Brush 81 unit that I was talking about, it was gone for several weeks. It was one of the first things to deploy out. And I don't say these things to belittle anybody. This is what our stuff come back, looking like, some of the devastation. The picture to the far left and bottom of that bottom picture is a Western shelter. So pretty much, hey, they had a shelter in place, such as like our Brock Gymnasium, but they had to have a portable one, and that's basically what that is. It's a huge hard and fast shelter that they'll set up and be able to provide some sheltering for folks that didn't have any. Things like those are not our message boards, but we have message boards very similar to that had to go up at a later time. We were also kind of put in charge of going and getting some of that equipment and bringing it back to Hickory and then maybe taking it to one of our neighboring counties. The middle picture there is Fire Marshal's office loading up those gators. As you can see how we had to load those on various different trailers and how we had to get those where they needed to go. Go ahead, Andrew. And again, these are our Dipper assets. The last thing that we've done very recent, we sponsored, the county itself sponsored and talked with Mitchell County's folks, their manager and their clerk to the board. And we went and delivered all kinds of things. Go back one more. They spoke with them. We ended up in Harris Middle School where we delivered, what did we put there? Oh, clothes, so on and so forth, things like that. And that was for men, women, children, infants. We took diapers up there. The Mitchell County Humane Society, JD's group, very last minute, they had a request close to Mitchell County for a lot of dog food, and his folks were able to get in contact with me, and we were able to take that up for them. But it was almost 1,000 pounds just of dog food and various things. And then Freedom Baptist Church ended up taking just a couple small items that we had left that the Harris Middle School just couldn't take. So very fortunate to be a part of this, but this is what we're doing in those times. So I'm very privileged to serve in the capacity that I am.
Thank you. Thank you for your service. That's awesome for support.
Yeah, thank you so much for the presentation, for everything you're doing. I'm always so impressed looking at the list of cross-agency cooperation, Health and Human Services, DSS, Public Utilities, Planning and Zoning. It's just so impressive in our county. And I wish you could just please comment just a little bit on, for something like this, is that something you can anticipate and plan, the cross-agency collaboration, communication? Is that already in place, or is that something which just really needs to come together and work at an almost unprecedented level in circumstances like this?
So in my opinion, and I hope I don't step on any other folks that are here tonight, but I think we do a pretty good job. We all have our days, but when bad things happen in Davie County, we get it done. And everybody's no less than subpar. I mean, all the way from emergency services all the way down to our public utilities. I mean, if something happened here, it might not be pretty, but we'd get it done. There's when something like that happens, me and JD's talked about this time and time over before, you can't plan for that.
Right.
Those people move to the mountains never expecting to need flood insurance. the 100-year flood. None of us will probably ever see that again in our lifetime. But, 90 miles to the west, that's exactly what we would have been facing. Or, 90 miles east, had that storm shifted, that's exactly what we'd have been facing.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Mr. Webb, I got a question for you. Are you aware of whether there has been any record or compilation of how many hours of service have been provided out of Davie County in response to this disaster? Has that been compiled anywhere or recorded anywhere?
In a short answer, yes. Again, we still have Dipper assets out there, such as the generator, so I'm unable to complete a lot of my stuff. I know JD and them, they have completed what their hours would have been for work, and if he can shed any light on that. Again, they were gone for 7 days apiece. Yeah, it's probably better if he gives you those statistics.
Yeah, come on up, JD.
I'm gonna go back for 1 second to her question. I will say, I think Davie County is very unique in the way we work together. Cameron and I have had this discussion many times. We're a small county in the middle of bigger counties. So if you have a huge disaster like this one in this area, most of your resources that are coming from the federal government, where are they going to go? Or even from the state government, they're going to go to the Winston-Salems and the Greensboros, so we're going to be that group that has to survive on our own for a few days, and we work very hard to be able to do that. Cameron did a great job in this situation. He doesn't make light of that, or he doesn't really speak high enough of himself that he kind of coordinated all this. That's what his first slide shows you, is at that EOC is coordinating that. So he did a great job with this. We deploy differently. What he meant by that is the state has it kind of divided. So sheriffs have a program. The request goes in to the Sheriff's Association, who runs that program for the state. They have personnel in the state EOC where he gets his marching orders from. Well, those marching orders go there, and then they feed them back out to the Sheriff's Association to sheriffs. So a sheriff in McDowell County sends that request up. That comes out to all the sheriffs. This is what's needed, who can provide it. You answer it, and then you get an order that tells you where to go and how long. So we spent 7 days at Old Fort, and then got new orders to go to Mitchell County when that team got back, and we spent 7 days there, 5 individuals. We provided UTVs in Old Fort. He's right, they came back needing a lot of service and a lot of help. It just was very rough terrain and stuff. But then we submit all that. We have to submit it. That's what he means. He has to submit everything to FEMA and to the federal government, hours-wise.
Sure.
And I use his formulas. He's got this formula that's published, which tells you what everything counts, what the value of all that is. So he don't speak about himself enough, but he does a great job. I appreciate it. And I'm sorry to interrupt.
Here.
To dig a little bit more in detail, so JD broke down the 7 days, and then they come back, and then they sent another group 7 days. They're typically on a schedule. It could be day shift, it could be night shift, but most operational periods are 12 hours. So they put in a consecutive 7 12-hour days before their mission was up, with the understanding that they may need to be called in the middle of the night as well. There may have been a crew able to take their place. There may not. Same way with the fire departments, same way with the rescue squad. I'm more familiar, as each incident happens, I am becoming more familiar with how JD's group works and trying to stay more informed so that I can do this for y'all. But specifically, I haven't been deployed 7 times myself for hurricane duty. That's typically how it goes. You got a minimum 7-day deployment with the possibility of a 14-day deployment. And all that stuff's wrote down. All that stuff is taken care of on FEMA forms. And I don't want to bore you with all that, but at a minimum, you're working 12-hour shifts, whether it's daytime or nighttime.
Well, my point was, no matter what records there are, I believe that you guys are underappreciated by the general public. I know the folks in western North Carolina appreciate you. You make Davie County and make our little town pretty proud too. So I just want to express to you that kind of gratitude.
Well, we definitely appreciate it. And yeah, Davie County has, I'm not going to say we put ourselves on the map, but there are folks at State EM, and that's only who I can speak to because that's who I answer to in this capacity. But State EM really has done a good job, but we couldn't do that without the support of our local government, our municipal areas, because, at the end of the day, I can't just send resources even though I feel compelled. That all has somewhere to go and someone to answer to. And we got to make sure home's taken care of first, which I assure you, before these decisions are made, and JD, I don't want to speak on your behalf, but I think I'll get the approval. Nobody's sending anything without taking care of us first. So.
Speaking of county government, we have someone who may want to have a word or two.
Sorry, Cameron, I'll make
Welcome.
that one. I just want to add something to what Rod said. Yes, those people in Athens were so thankful, and I was blessed to be able to attend an event at Coolamy Fire Department where their volunteers had gone up. When they had their Christmas dinner, the people from the fire department that they assisted in the mountains came and attended and presented them with a plaque and thanked them so much for what they have done. We're so blessed because not only do we have Cameron and his staff and JD and his staff, but if we had this type of incident, we would also have all of our volunteer fire departments that would step up to the plate. And of course, Cameron would also be coordinating them as well. But a lot of the people that participated in this are volunteers. So especially like the Swiftwater Rescue Team, all of those rescue squad people are volunteers as well. But we are very, very, very blessed in Davie County for all of our emergency services and our personnel. So
Agreed.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Benita.
And let me make sure I mention one thing because he helped me out of a crunch. That trailer right there come from Trailers of the East Coast, and I'd be ill at myself if I didn't tell everyone that Mr. Bill Junker was pretty inspirational in helping me with, again, in a time crunch, an empty trailer to get all those supplies where they needed to go.
I have seen you do presentations over the years. I remember the one that you came to the Women's Club and did for
Oh, yes.
Swiftwater Rescue, which was unbelievable.
That was right after
the
Matthew, I
floods.
believe.
Pardon me?
I think that was right after Matthew.
It was right after Matthew, and it was so impressive. And I see this presentation today, and we have friends that were severely impacted by the storms Helene in Spruce Pine and in Old Fort. And I look at what you all do, and I have such a deep appreciation and pride that it's coming from our county. And boy, you have made this job just, it's growing and growing, and you've done such a wonderful job.
Well, we're definitely trying. I put in a post just the other day on the fire marshal's page. We're small, but we're doing big things.
You are.
Agreed.
Thank you. I'll just add that, thank you, thank the coordination. Those of us who come from the business world think about planning for business continuity and emergency planning, and you do tabletop exercises in case, scenario planning, all those kinds of things. That's kind of your life. People like us see it happen when it happens in real time, but that's typically a lot of planning and preparation that we're witnessing. In addition to that, the ability for this county and all the counties to come together, each in, whether it's residents, whether it's emergency management, others, and came together and headed west to do what had to be done to help is incredible. Lastly, I'll say, none of this happens by accident. We have good people, and we have good county leadership that fund important operations to make these things happen. Without those things coming together, these are just presentations, there's no action. So I want to thank you for the service, JD, all the others who have been a part of this rescue EMS fire effort. I also want to thank our county leaders for continuing to invest and recognizing the importance of that investment to help make this county safe and to be able to support those beyond. So thank you, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right, great, thank you very much. With that, we'll turn it over to our town manager for a report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Town Council, I'll be just brief. I have just a few things just to advise you on. You'll probably notice Duke Energy crews are in the neighborhood. They are in the process of updating several of the light posts from the sodium vapor type light to LED lights. They are required to do this as part of a federal mandate that they have to have so many of their lights meeting this LED standard. What you may see is that existing lamp post head does not fit the LED light. So there may be a change out. So you may see some inconsistencies in the lamp head as you go through the neighborhood. But you also may see there are some instances where there may be a complete replacement of the head as well as the pole because the pole doesn't meet their current standard that they're having. So I think they're doing probably 70 post, weather permitting, this week. I know they've already been in a couple of the other neighborhoods doing that, but again, they are mandated to do this a certain percentage each year across the state to do this. So they're in Bermuda Run, and I think this comment has been made multiple times about the little white flags. So this is that kind of indication. So, so if you see those, just you just be aware. There shouldn't be any kind of impact to blocking streets or closure of streets during this process, but it shouldn't take more, probably like an hour, hour and a half for each lamp post that they work on. You may also still observe some surveying work being conducted as part of the AIA study. There were a few manholes that weren't found or were identified as part of the smoke test work that was done several weeks ago. So surveyors are out trying still to locate those. In many cases, some of those are buried underground, have been covered up over the years. Some were covered up by our newly asphalt paving work that we've done. So, so we're getting those identified, but also the engineers are out making assessments of our infrastructure. As you recall, as part of that that report, there's kind of a capital improvement plan with that. So they are already making those assessments and estimating costs for that. So they're starting with, the pump stations. If you're not aware, we have 6 pump stations, not including the Juniper pump station throughout the community. So they're all looking at those and making assessments of that. So the other issue, and it was brought up earlier tonight, with the parking issue there as a result of the events at Rise and/or Fusion. Once the town was made aware, we immediately reached out to those representatives there at those organizations and asked to be addressed immediately, which it appears that has worked. The fire marshal's office was also notified of what was going on, but we are having or scheduling follow-up meetings with this. So they are being responsive, which this is what we requested of them, and just to find out why this happened at this event. So we'll follow back up with council on that, but I have no doubt that that issue will be resolved. So that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Meadwell. Again, let me just shout out again, thank you for those in the audience, everyone for coming, but certainly thank you, Officer Foster, thank you, J.D., and other representatives of first responders. Thank you, Cameron, for all that you do. Again, shout out to Benita for attending tonight, and thank you for all that you do for our county as well. I think I'm going to wrap it up there, so I'll turn it over to council. Any closing comments?
Just one closing comment from me. I continue, having lived in Davie County for about 20 years now, I continue to be, I shouldn't say amazed, I continue to be very proud of the assets and the people that we have that provide the services to our town and to our county. Though some of you here represent the very best of those, and I want to just simply say my personal thanks, as well as my thanks on behalf of the town of Bermuda Run. Thank you very much.
Do we have a
Mike, you'll be missed.
Although, that being said, rumor has it he may be coming back for our Christmas in Bermuda Run, dressed in his holiday attire, so we're gonna hold you to that, my friend. So, all right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Show of approval? 5-0. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. We are adjourned.